Have you ever heard someone say, oh, they were just born smart? Intelligence is some kind of magical gift you either have or you don't.
Yeah, like some people just get it and others don't, right?
Today, we're diving into a newsletter that challenges that whole idea.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's called From Stuttering to Checkmate. And the author, Basti, uses his own life story to explore the idea that maybe, just maybe, we've been looking at intelligence the wrong way. It's definitely not the typical path you'd expect.
For sure.
So Basti's story begins with a challenge most of us can't even imagine.
Okay.
After cleft lip surgery as a child, he essentially had to relearn how to speak his native language, German, from scratch.
Wow, that must have been incredibly difficult, not just like logistically, but emotionally as well.
I can't even imagine.
To have to work so hard just to communicate, it makes you wonder how an experience like that might shape a person's entire approach to learning.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Basti doesn't just see his early speech difficulties as a hurdle he overcame. He actually sees them as like a foundational experience that shaped his understanding of how learning works.
Okay.
He even uses chess as a metaphor for this. He talks about how in chess, making strategic moves early on can set you up for success later in the game,
Okay.
even if those early moves don't seem flashy or impressive at the time.
Oh, I see.
And he applies that same logic to learning. He believes that if you develop the right strategies early on, your knowledge and skills can grow exponentially over time, just like a win in chess position.
Okay, so it's like he's saying that intelligence isn't about having some pre-programmed genius, but about having a toolbox of effective learning strategies.
Exactly.
And that those strategies are something you can develop, just like you can learn to play chess.
Exactly. And this brings us to another interesting part of Basti's story.
Okay.
He was later transferred to a school for gifted children.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine the pressure of that? He even admits in his newsletter that he was afraid his classmates would think he wasn't smart enough to be there.
Really?
Which is ironic, right?
It is quite ironic, especially considering he had already mastered a complex game like chess.
Yeah.
It highlights how we often equate intelligence with certain skills or achievement, when in reality it might be something much more nuanced and multifaceted.
Absolutely. And it touches on what psychologists call a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset.
Oh yeah, I've heard of those.
So a fixed mindset is the belief that intelligence is innate and unchangeable,
Got it.
while a growth mindset sees intelligence as something that could be developed through effort and learning.
Okay, that makes sense.
It makes me wonder, have you, dear listener, ever had experiences that made you question your own ability to learn?
That's a good question.
Maybe you struggled in a certain subject or felt like you couldn't keep up with your peers.
It's a pretty common experience, unfortunately.
It is.
Our education system often emphasizes performance and comparison,
Yeah.
which can lead to self-doubt and even create the perception that some people are just naturally better at learning than others.
But Basti's story suggests a different perspective.
How?
He actually argues that school often favored specific learning styles, and struggling in that environment doesn't mean you lack intelligence. It might just mean you haven't found the learning strategies that work best for you yet.
That's incredibly encouraging.
It's never too late to discover new and more effective ways to learn.
I completely agree. And this is where Basti's story takes another fascinating turn.
Oh.
He now runs workshops focused on helping people turn information overload into organized wisdom.
Interesting.
He's basically taken his own experiences and developed a system for optimizing learning.
It's fascinating how he's turned his personal journey into something that can benefit others.
Definitely.
He talks about turning your notes into a knowledge hub, building a system for compounding expertise.
And what's really insightful is how he connects this to professional growth.
Oh, yeah.
He's essentially arguing that your ability to learn effectively is a key driver of success regardless of your field.
Makes sense.
He's saying that it's not just about being smart, it's about being a skilled learner.
Which is a game changer, right?
Totally.
It means we're not limited by some predetermined notion of how intelligent we are.
It's empowering.
We have the power to become more effective learners, and that can have a profound impact on our lives, both personally and professionally.
It's incredibly empowering.
It is.
And it raises an important question.
What's that?
If we can actually improve our ability to learn, what specific strategies can we implement to do so?
Basti has a lot to say about that.
I bet he does.
He believes there are specific techniques and approaches that can dramatically improve our learning efficiency and effectiveness.
Interesting.
He even shares some of them in his newsletter.
Oh, cool.
And we'll dive into those next.
So one strategy he emphasizes is the importance of turning your notes into a knowledge hub.
A knowledge hub.
Yeah, like a centralized system where you can easily access and connect all the information you've learned.
I love that idea. I'm a note-taking fanatic myself.
Me too.
But sometimes my notes end up scattered across different notebooks, apps, and random scraps of paper. Having a central knowledge hub sounds way more organized.
It definitely is. It's all about making connections between different ideas and concepts.
Okay.
Basti talks about how this can help you not only remember information better, but also see the bigger picture, understand the underlying patterns, and even generate new insights.
So it's moving beyond just rote memorization and into a deeper level of understanding.
Exactly. It's like taking all those puzzle pieces from your notes and finally fitting them together to see the complete image.
I like that analogy.
And another strategy Basti advocates for is something he calls compounding expertise.
Compounding expertise.
Yeah, it's based on the idea that learning isn't a linear process, but rather a cycle of building upon what you already know.
So it's like how compound interest works in finance. Your knowledge earns interest, so to speak, as you continue to learn and build upon it.
Precisely. He suggests actively seeking out connections between what you're currently learning and what you've learned in the past.
Okay.
This might involve revisiting old notes, reflecting on previous experiences, or even seeking out new information that builds upon your existing knowledge base.
That makes a lot of sense. Instead of treating each new piece of information as an isolated fact, you're integrating it into your existing web of knowledge.
Make it more meaningful and memorable. He argued that anyone can become an expert in their chosen field by consistently applying these learning strategies over time.
So you're not just passively absorbing information, you're actively building a mental model of your chosen field piece by piece.
And it's a journey that requires patience and persistence.
Okay.
It's about embracing the growth mindset and recognizing that becoming an expert is a process, not an overnight transformation.
Definitely. Basti also talks about the importance of finding the right learning strategies for your individual learning style.
Oh, for sure.
He points out that traditional schooling often favors a particular type of learner,
Yeah.
often those who excel at memorization and standardized tests.
That's an important point. Not everyone learns best by sitting in a lecture hall or reading textbooks.
Basti emphasizes the importance of embracing curiosity, being open to new ideas, and not being afraid to make mistakes.
He sees mistakes as opportunities for learning and growth, not as failures.
Which is a really important point, especially in a society that often emphasizes perfectionism and avoids failure at all costs.
So true. It's about shifting your perspective and seeing learning as a lifelong journey, not a destination.
So if we bring this all back to the idea of intelligence, it seems like Basti is suggesting that it's not just about your IQ or how well you did in school.
No, not at all.
It's about your ability to learn, adapt, and grow throughout your life.
Exactly.
It's about embracing challenges, experimenting with different learning strategies, and constantly seeking new knowledge and understanding.
Which is a really empowering message. It means that we all have the potential to become more intelligent regardless of our starting point.
And that intelligence is not a fixed trait, but a muscle that we can strengthen and develop over time.
I love that analogy.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? What's the key takeaway here?
The most important takeaway is that we all have more control over our intellectual development than we might realize.
We're not limited by some predetermined notion of how smart we are.
Nope.
We have the power to become more effective learners, and that can have a profound impact on our lives, both personally and professionally.
Absolutely. And it starts with understanding that intelligence is a skill set, not a fixed trait.
It's about embracing a growth mindset, finding the learning strategies that work best for you, and committing to lifelong learning.
And remember, learning isn't just about accumulating knowledge. It's about applying that knowledge to make a difference in the world.
It's like Basti is giving us permission to become lifelong learners.
Yeah.
To embrace the journey of continuous growth and discovery.
And to find joy in that journey. Because learning doesn't have to be a chore. It can be an exciting adventure.
Exactly. It's about finding that spark of curiosity that makes you want to connect the dots and see the world in a new way.
I like that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Banffy's fascinating newsletter, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, shoot.
What's one specific thing you can do today to enhance your own learning journey?
That's a good question.
Maybe it's signing up for that online course you've been eyeing or dusting off that book on your shelf.
Right.
Or maybe it's simply making a commitment to dedicate a few minutes each day to exploring a new topic.
It doesn't have to be a huge commitment.
Whatever it is, take that first step.
Yeah.
Embrace the journey of lifelong learning and see where it takes you.